Okay, I think we're ready. Thanks for waiting, Coach. We're going to allow you to open up with opening comments, and then we'll go to Mike Petraglia first.
Okay. Well, first of all, this is obviously a very interesting draft. The way the whole thing was conducted and so forth. It was really a great effort by everyone. Certainly, the people on our end did a tremendous job. Nick, his staff, Dan Famosi, the IT people, all the coordination, everything that went into it. There was a lot of preparation, and really went smoothly on this end. The league. That was an efficient operation as well. The trades and the communication that we had with them was pretty normal, like it normally would be. In terms of timing and so forth, there didn't really seem to be any glitches, at least not any that I was aware of. And we were certainly involved in a number of trades, and those all went off well. So it was really a very, very smoothly run draft. It was very challenging to do, but it went well. So again, organizationally, Nick and his staff, Monty, Dave Ziegler, the scouts, really again did an excellent job of getting the information at all points, whether it was at the start of the draft process or all through in the spring combine, our different WebEx meetings, and so forth. Very, very well organized and efficient. And that it enabled us to operate pretty smoothly and seamlessly over the last 3 days. So, that was good. And this is always a good opportunity, an important opportunity to try to improve your football team. And I feel like we did that this weekend. We drafted 10 players and free agents in the period right after the draft, the last couple hours. So we're hustling around on that. But look forward to eventually getting those guys here and being able to work with them. But in the meantime, we'll do what we can do in terms of giving them information and trying to bring them up to speed with the playbook and training methods and so forth. So we'll work through that. So it'll be a little different than what it's been in the past, but we'll make the most of it. And excited to work with these guys. I know Nick covered the first couple of days of the draft, so I'll skip over that. Today we waited for a while until we're able to pick Rohrwasser as our kicker, and he's had a really an impressive career. Big leg, kicks the ball well, and then not great conditions, and as well. Mature kid, big strong kid. Then we got to the offensive line with Manu and Heron, and then came back and got Ken as an inside linebacker of Wyoming. He played with Logan Wilson out there at Wyoming. That was a pretty good tandem. And then finished off with Dustin Woodard, who's played both guard and center inside. So added some depth in terms of offensive line, tight ends, obviously a kicker, and big safety, and 3 linebackers that have some versatility. Plus the guys that are coming in as undrafted free agents, which we've always gotten contributions out of somebody from that group as well. So we'll see how all that pans out. So that's pretty much my update. Appreciate everyone being here and following up. Hope we're all doing well in this remote environment, staying safe and healthy, and look forward to getting to the other side of it.
So first question will be Mike Petraglia.
All right, thanks, Stacy. Evening, Bill. I hope you and your family and Nike are doing well.
Everybody's doing well. Thanks, Mike.
I wanted to ask you about the wide receiver group, and obviously you didn't draft a wide receiver in this 3-day period. What does it say? How does it reflect upon the wide receiver group that you have currently, and how much faith you have for a lot of those younger players to make progress in year number 2, namely N'Keal Harry and Jacoby Myers?
Yeah, well, we'll see how that goes. I'm sure that our young players are all, improve in year 2, and been a first-round pick on N'Keal last year, and second-round pick on Sanu. That was really off of this draft, and obviously have Julian and a number of other young players, and I think that'll be a very good group. There's a lot of different ways and times to build your team, and the draft's one of them. But as I mentioned, whether it's Sanu or free agent signing like Bird, or whatever the case might be, there's multiple ways to build your roster, and so this is one of them.
Yeah, if I can follow up real quick about the Michigan influence. You have 2 players drafted from Michigan, and a tight end, obviously, Asasi, who started at Michigan and moved on to UCLA. What is it about the Michigan program that you like? You obviously chose Winovich last year as well.
Yeah. Sometimes it just works out that way. It's not really, an intention to go in to draft a lot of players from one school or another. I know, we talked about that before when we had guys from Rutgers and so forth, and Alabama, and we've had different schools where I guess that's been, there's been a little bit of multiple players from that school. But honestly, there's not anything we really think about. Just trying to, take advantage of the opportunities to draft and put players on our team, and wherever they come from, they come from. So it's probably more coincidence or anything else. But certainly, it's a good program, and from talking to Chase about some of the players, he was very complimentary about his teammates, and feel like they're all good players, and they'll all find a way to help them.
Hang on, somebody's unmuted. I'm going to mute all again. Andrew Callahan, you're next.
Hey, Bill, thanks for taking the time. I'm glad to hear everything is going well on your end. Obviously, every draft class is unique. Player situations are unique. But I'm curious, when you look at the group you've assembled here, what might be unique about this group or commonalities they might have had that stand out to you when you look at the players you've now grabbed over the last 3 days?
Well, as you said, every group's different, and we'll see how it goes with this group of guys. I think collectively we'll have to maybe sit back and take a little broader look and to answer that question and put it all together. But the short answer for me would be every player has something that we feel like is valuable to offer to our team. This is a pretty hardworking and mature group, but we'll see how all that plays out too. It's a little different in college than it is in the National Football League. The challenges will be different and all that, but certainly guys seem to have represented themselves well, and in our interactions with them and what we've been able to determine from our scouts and so forth. So it seems like a pretty solid group.
Mike Reese next.
Bill, how you doing?
Good, Mike.
Good. I just want to start, if I can, with a lighthearted one. Can I get a 40 time on Nike?
He's fast.
Sub 4?
Fast as the rabbits he's chasing, but he's not that fast, but he's fast.
There you go. I wanted to ask you about the quarterbacks. Last night, Nick had said you guys would add one to join Jarrett and Brian. Is that going to, you think, come through the undrafted free agent route? Is that most likely? Yeah. And it is. Can we confirm that it's Jamar Smith? I know there's a report that just came out when we started that you guys might be close to lining that up.
Yeah, we talked to a lot of players after the draft, and I just, I wouldn't confirm anybody until we actually have a signed contract. And we've had plenty of cases where we've thought we had an agreement with the player and it didn't happen, and in some cases, something's happened where maybe we weren't able to keep an agreement with a player, due to physical or some other contractual issue that might pop up. So we'll announce them once they're, once we verify them and they're done. You can report them however you want to report them, but we've talked to Jamar, no question. Yeah.
And just to follow up on the position, only about 12 get drafted on average. If you look at like the last 10 years, for you guys in this draft, is there like just a couple that you had, like draftable grades on, and like how does that work as you're navigating through the draft on whether you actually go ahead and pick a quarterback?
Well, that's a long question or a long answer there. We could talk about that for a long time. But the bottom line is that we're evaluating that position along with all the other ones, and if we feel like we find the right situation, we'll certainly draft them. And we've drafted them in multiple years and multiple points in the draft. Didn't work out the last 3 days. That wasn't by design. It could have, but it didn't. And we'll, again, there are multiple ways to build your team. We'll see whether or not that's part of another that comes up at a different point in time. I don't know, but we just tried to do the best we could with what we had in this weekend, and that's what we did, and we'll see where it goes.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Next will be Joe Chioda, followed by Mike Giardi.
Hi, Bill. Quick question. I know you mentioned it earlier off the top very quickly about the kicker, drafting him in the 5th round. Can you go into more detail about what you saw in him, and did you ever see him at URI, or is it more based on what he did at Marshall?
Yeah, I mean, we've got I want to say it's like 250 kicks of him going all the way back to, when he's at URI and Marshall. So yeah, we've seen it all. And yeah, there's plenty of film on him. I think like a lot of players, you can see him, their consistency improve over the course of their career, and as they get fundamentally better and get bigger and stronger and grow into their bodies like most college kids do. So, but yeah, he's and again, he's kicked in not great conditions. So no, there's been plenty of days that it's been good conditions. I'm not saying it's all been blizzards, but he's got a good a good leg, hits the ball straight. He's got good hang time on the kickoffs, gets it up on the field goals. So we'll see how all that see how all that goes now in a little different environment here. But I think there's a lot to like about him, and he did well in both at both URI and at Marshall.
Mike Giardi, followed by Dan Roach.
Good evening, Bill. I'm curious if by not selecting a quarterback, that says something about the confidence you have in the current quarterback room with Jared and Brian.
Yeah, no, I like both those players. We've had Brian a couple times, and I think he certainly gives us a very solid level of play, and we have a lot of confidence in him. And Jared had a good year last year. He improved a lot, and we'll see where that takes him. So yeah, I have confidence in both players.
Dan Roach, followed by Doug Hyde.
Hey, Bill. Just two-part question. One is, what was the reaction of your staff and maybe your family and everyone to the star of Nike and what he was able to accomplish in that position? He's all over the place on social media. But also just kind of what did the Senior Bowl being able to be there do for you, especially because of the way things have gone this year with what we're all going through?
Yeah, no, it's a good point, Dan. We as you pointed out here, there really wasn't a lot of opportunity to get a close look at players. And so the Senior Bowl and the Indy Combine were really those two opportunities this year for the most part. And so I guess they probably, stick with you a little stronger than maybe than in other years, because it's pretty much all you had. So, the Senior Bowl is good, like it always is. That was a good group of players, and certainly players like, Kyle, that came from a small school, to be able to see him work against, some of the other top players in the country that you just didn't see in college was, very beneficial to him, and for us to see that. So that'd be a good example of not only, being able to evaluate him defensively, but also, just watch him handle the ball on punts and so forth. And, not great conditions down there in Mobile. So it's, those were good evaluation periods. And again, especially the combine, or some guys that didn't work out at the combine, and that, leaves a little bit of a, question mark about some of their, testing numbers and so forth. So, but I mean, look, every team's dealing with the same situation. So, it is what it is. Linda did a great job with Nike. He's, as you can see, he's very personal, and friendly, and gets a lot of attention. So I'll give her the kudos on that one.
Next is Doug Kyde, followed by Ian Steele.
Bill, I had a question on Dalton Keene. I know that Nick Cassera touched on him a little bit yesterday, but with a player like him who wasn't quite as productive in college, do the interviews and the workouts count a little bit more on a player like that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of, when you watch Dalton play, you just don't see a lot of, you just don't see a lot of things that we do. What the Virginia Tech offense didn't really translate, I would say, too much to a New England Patriot offense. But that's not uncommon with other players as well. So it is what it is. And I think the things that you saw him do, which was, his blocking, his effort to block, his toughness, and the ability to make plays with the ball in his hands, and certainly the intent of the offense to get him the ball was impressive. They did a lot of things to try to, get him the ball one way or another, hand it to him, throw it to him, put him in different locations so that he could, run with it, or catch it and run with it. So, but that's what you saw. I've already talked to him about that. That's going to be a big transition for him in terms of, learning our system and being, I'd say, more detailed and more, specific on a lot of assignments, and particularly in the passing game, and learning how to block in close quarters. Which again, he shows plenty of, ability to do that, and size and quickness and so forth, but just say he hasn't done a lot of it. He played quite a bit in the backfield, not as a fullback, but as kind of an off the ball. Sometimes it was sort of a fullback location, but not really not lined up behind the quarterback, but lined up in a backfield or off the line. So it's a little bit of a different location than what we would normally use. But I mean, he's a smart kid. He's athletic. He's strong. He's tough. So I don't see any reason why he can't and won't make those adjustments in time. So we'll work on it.
Final questions, Ian Steele and Aiden Curran. Go ahead, Ian.
Thanks, Stacy. Bill, glad to hear that everyone's doing well where you're at.
Yeah. Thank you.
My question's about Kyle Duggar, and it's kind of a similar point about the Virginia Tech scheme, and that the tight end went through, and how he's coming into the pros now. Is there a similar type of deal with a Division II player coming into the NFL? And I know you've had a couple in the past with Gunner and with Danny and things like that. How do you foresee the challenges of translating a Division II defense into what you guys are running?
Yeah, I think that's it's a good question, and it's part of the challenge of evaluating a player at a small school like that. I think the Senior Bowl really helped Kyle. There he's running a pro defense against a pro offense with soon-to-be pro players. So whether it was one-on-one drills, 7-on-7 drills, catching punts, tackling in the game, whatever happened. I think you could really see that he was able to compete and very favorably at that level of competition in a scheme that represents something close to what we'd be doing. So it was a short window, but it was a full week of practice and a game. I think I saw a lot of improvement during the week and feel like this is a kid that's smart, that works hard, that has a lot of ability. We'll see how much time it takes. I'm sure it'll take some time to make those adjustments, but I'm confident that he'll work hard and he'll be able to handle the things that we give him, and in time he'll be able to do them. So exactly how long that takes or will take, I don't know, but again, I think he's got a lot going for him in terms of his intelligence and his work ethic, and and the natural ability he has to do things, whether it's playing the deep part of the field, which he did a lot of at Lenore Ryan, or play close to the line of scrimmage, which he didn't do as much of in college, although there's some of it, and then there's more of it in the Senior Bowl. So, I think we'll just have to, take our installation as it comes, and watch him do multiple things, and see what things he needs a little more work on, or what things may become a little bit easier to him. But we'll figure all that out in time. I think he'll be able to do the things that we need him to do at that position. But it's without the Senior Bowl, it certainly would have been for me a lot tougher projection. If he wouldn't been able to do that.
Last question will be Aiden Curran.
Hi, Bill. With things up in the air in terms of when the team can meet again, when all NFL teams can meet again in person, curious how you're going to address the extra challenge of bringing this rookie class up to speed virtually to begin with, and then not knowing when you can get them in person and see what they can do on the field as well.
Right. Yeah. Well, we'll pretty much follow the format that we've done with the veteran players. So we'll have a rookie minicamp, if you will, and take that time to try to orient the players the best that we can through some of the things that they're going to be dealing with, and also to try to start the process of new terminology and nomenclature and terms and so forth. And then that eventually we'll follow that up with the rookie developmental period that start with the league. I think it's on May 11th, and then that will eventually merge into a full scale like OTA type meeting schedule that we would normally have without the on the field work. But try to use that time to bring the team together in terms of putting our plays in and so forth, and also trying to help them structure their training so that they can best prepare for the season. Whatever guidance and direction we get on that, when we get it, we'll modify things as necessary. But at this point, I'd say we're planning kind of a normal spring in terms of covering material and giving them information and testing them to make sure that they are comprehending it and can give it back to us. But we'll just have to modify that as we go. And however it goes to training camp and the early part of the season and so forth, however that ends up happening, then we're ready to adjust along the way. But so far, I would say after a week of meeting with the players last week, that these WebEx meetings have gone very well. I'd say in ways surprisingly better than I would have expected. There haven't really been any problem. Players are engaged. They're learning a lot of material and putting a lot of time and work in it. They're following the guidelines that we've given them in terms of their training program off the field, on the field training program and weightlifting and so forth. And they're obviously at various varying degrees of facilities and equipment and so forth. But one way or another, I think they're finding a way to work around it, and we are too. And so I commend them for that, and hopefully we can string a few good weeks together on that spring and do the best we can to prepare to be ready for training camp. It's certainly not what we're used to doing, but again, everybody's dealing with the same situations. But we're just trying to make the most of whatever our opportunities are.
Great. Thanks, Bill.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the question.
Thank you very much, Coach. Thanks, everyone. We appreciate you participating.
Great. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks, Stacy.
Thank you.